Hey everyone, Andrew Meatrich here, and we need to talk about what's happening across the Atlantic right now, because Europe just had one of those days that tells you everything about where we're headed. While the world's watching one story, three others are quietly reshaping the continent, and you need to know about all of them. I spent years working inside one of the major media organizations, watching how they'd massage stories to fit whatever narrative the bosses wanted that week, and I couldn't take it anymore. So I walked away. Now I'm on my own, I answer to nobody, and I'm going to tell you what's actually happening out there, not what some corporate board wants you to hear. Before we dive deeper, if you find value in getting the unfiltered truth, hit that like button and subscribe, because that's how this channel survives without corporate money breathing down my neck. And if you really want to support independent journalism that doesn't bow to anyone, consider becoming a channel sponsor. It's not about the money, it's about keeping this thing alive so I can keep bringing you the real story. All right, let's get into it. So, Ursula von der Leyen, she's still sitting pretty at the top of the European Commission. Surprised? You shouldn't be. Two separate no-confidence motions hit the floor today, and both went down in flames. The centrist parties circled the wagons and voted to keep her right where she is. Here's what went down in Strasbourg. The right-wing faction, calling themselves Patriots for Europe, they put forward their motion, got 179 votes in favor, but 378 voted against, with 37 abstentions. Then the radical left took their shot, managed to scrape together 133 yes votes, but 383 said no, and 78 just sat on their hands. Von der Leyen didn't even bother showing up to watch it happen, and afterwards she posted this brief statement on social media, thanking everyone for their, quote, powerful support. But here's the thing, and this is what the political analysts over there are pointing out. 3 attempts to remove her in such a short period. That casts a shadow, doesn't it? Even if she survives, even if she puts on a brave face and calls it a win, having to fight off 3 separate confidence votes in rapid succession tells you something's not right. She might not see it that way, but the cracks are showing. Now, while that drama's unfolding in Strasbourg over in Germany, they're dealing with something far more serious. The coalition government just hammered out emergency measures after marathon negotiations. And the reason is simple. The economy is in trouble, real trouble. If you're wondering just how serious it is, unemployment in Germany hit over 3 million people back in August. 3 million. That's the highest it's been in decades. And we're not talking about some service sector slowdown here. We're talking about the manufacturing giants, the companies that built Germany's post-war economic miracle. They're cutting jobs left and right. Chancellor Friedrich Merz came out and said Germany is facing one of the most difficult periods in its modern history amid global upheaval. When a German chancellor starts talking like that, you pay attention. So what are they doing about it? Well, they're getting creative, and by creative I mean desperate. They're rolling out financial incentives to keep retirees working longer. They're tightening the rules on unemployment benefits. The message is clear. If you can work, you will work. Period. And there's more. Merz brought in all the heads of the auto industry for what they're calling an auto summit. They're trying to figure out how to rescue this crucial sector, and part of that involves new incentives for electric vehicle purchases. We'll see what concrete strategy comes out of it, but the automotive industry in Germany is facing the worst crisis in its entire history. No exaggeration. But wait, let me throw you a curveball here, because while Europe's wrestling with economic collapse and political survival, something potentially massive just happened in the Middle East. And yeah, I'm talking about Israel and Gaza. The agreement's been signed. Ceasefire. Hostage release. The whole package. It's all over the international media now, confirmed from multiple sources. People in Tel Aviv were in the streets, singing, hugging, crying tears of joy. The deal says Israeli hostages will be released soon, Israel will begin a partial withdrawal from Gaza, and they'll release Palestinian prisoners, including some designated as high risk, which, that's going to be controversial no matter how you slice it. And here's where it gets interesting depending on your perspective. A lot of Israelis are specifically thanking Donald Trump for this. They're saying flat out, without him, this deal wouldn't exist. The mayor of one Israeli city wants to name a stadium after Trump. There's a boardwalk being built in Tel Aviv that's going to carry Trump's name, and Netanyahu himself laid the first stone for that project. Netanyahu's office even put out a call for Trump to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. Now look, I'm not here to tell you Trump is some kind of savior or to tear him down either. Let me just lay out the facts. Trump has been pushing this narrative that he's ended multiple conflicts since taking office, and he said no one in history has ended this many confrontations in such a short time. At a press conference, when asked if he expects the Nobel, he said he has no idea, but suggested the committee's decisions might be politically motivated, which, let's be honest, there's probably some truth to that. Leaders from Armenia, Azerbaijan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Israel, Cambodia, and Rwanda have all backed Trump's nomination. Families of 7 Israeli hostages voiced their support too. So there's clearly a constituency that believes he deserves recognition. Whether the Nobel Committee agrees, we'll find out Friday at 11 a.m. when they announce the winner. Only 6 people know the decision right now. The rest of us are waiting like it's the season finale of some political drama series. Meanwhile, back in the United States, things are moving fast in Chicago. The National Guard is now protecting federal facilities there. About 500 troops deployed so far. Trump's been sending military units into cities run by Democrats, claiming there's a crime wave that needs to be dealt with. Whether that's accurate or whether it's political theater, you decide. But the troops are there, and they're not leaving anytime soon. If this kind of reporting matters to you, take a second and drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about any of these stories. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? This is how we build something that can't be controlled. Now, I have to tell you about something happening in the European Parliament that's so absurd, you might think I'm making it up, but I promise you this is real. The deputies in Strasbourg just passed a final decision that, in their words, will change the course of history. Ready for this? Vegan burgers and schnitzels can no longer be called burgers and schnitzels. I'm serious. From now on, they'll be called, I don't know, soy patties, plant-based discs, alternative chunks, whatever you want. Just don't call them meat products. The reasoning? So nobody confuses a real meat patty with a vegan one. And here's where it gets even better. There's outrage, not really about the renaming itself, but about the timing. German parliamentarians are absolutely furious, saying they can't explain to people why the European Parliament is voting on this kind of nonsense during such difficult times. One of them said it undermines trust in the European Union. Like, don't you have bigger problems to solve than what to call a soy burger? But not everyone thinks it's ridiculous. Some people genuinely want to know exactly where the meat is and where the soy is, and they want it written clearly on the package. So if you love vegan schnitzel, get ready for a rebrand. And if you're a member of the European Parliament, maybe it's time to think about a rebrand of your own, because this looks absurd from the outside. All right, let's shift gears to something that's actually important. South Korea. They have the lowest birth rate in the world. This isn't news, we've known this for a while, but the implications are severe. The economy, the entire social system, it's all at risk if this trend continues. So President Lee Jae-myung came out with a proposal. You want higher birth rates? Let people work less. No. You didn't hear that wrong. The South Korean president believes the main problem is that people are working too much. The average Korean works almost 1,900 hours a year. That's 130 hours more than the average in developed countries. And when you're grinding that hard, there's no time for a personal life, no time to start a family. Here's the plan. Gradually reduce the work week from 40 hours to 36 without cutting pay, and then eventually move to a 4-day work week. They're setting up a working group, and the government is promising subsidies to companies that take a financial hit from this. The unions, they're thrilled. They say it's the only way to save the country's demographics. Business leaders, on the other hand, they're not happy. Some are genuinely panicking. So now the world's watching. Will it work? Can you reverse demographic collapse by just giving people more free time? It's a fascinating experiment, and we'll see how it plays out. Oh, and quickly, back in France, Emmanuel Macron made a decision after meeting with the outgoing Prime Minister, Michel Barnier. Instead of calling early parliamentary elections, Macron's going to appoint a new head of government. He's still refusing to resign himself, and the new Prime Minister is supposed to be announced by Friday evening. So we're all watching that space closely. Let me bring this together for you. Today we covered Ursula von der Leyen surviving yet another no-confidence vote, but with serious questions about her stability. Germany rolling out desperate economic measures because unemployment's hitting levels we haven't seen in decades. Israel and Gaza reaching a ceasefire deal with Trump, getting a lot of credit from Israeli officials, whether deserved or not. The Nobel Peace Prize speculation around Trump intensifying ahead of Friday's announcement. National Guard troops now stationed in Chicago as part of Trump's push into Democratic-run cities, the European Parliament wasting time renaming vegan burgers while the continent faces real crises, and South Korea trying a radical experiment, cutting work hours to boost birth rates. All of these stories connect to a bigger picture. Europe struggling with legitimacy and economic survival. The Middle East might be turning a corner, or we might be in for another false hope. The US is escalating domestic tensions, and Asia's grappling with demographic collapse. These aren't isolated incidents, they're all symptoms of a global system under immense pressure. If you got value from this breakdown, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and seriously consider becoming a channel sponsor. This kind of independent analysis doesn't happen without your support. I walked away from the comfortable corporate media job because I couldn't stomach the lies anymore, but that means I depend on you to keep this going. Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read them, and your perspective matters. There's always more to discuss, always more beneath the surface. Stay sharp, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.